Welcome to Om Times TV, a division of Om Times Media and Broadcasting. Be bold, be brave, be extraordinary, be vulnerable, be real, be curious, be true, be you. Welcome to Trusting Your Gut with world-class energy intuitive Katherine McIntosh, a show designed to awaken you to enjoy the process of evolving, have fun along the way, and learn to listen to those silent in-between moments. You are the expert of your own life, and nobody knows more about the next steps to take in your journey than you. So please, listen to your gut and discover what's waiting for you to explore. Here is your host, Katherine McIntosh.
All right, my magical friends, so welcome. This is a first. This is radio show number 1, and I'm so excited to be here with all of you live. So today's episode and the topic of today's episode is actually the topic of the whole show, and trusting your gut. And what I'm really excited to share with you is ways in which you yourself can begin to trust your gut. And it happens all the time, where we get maybe goosebumps or the chills, or maybe you start to get sick, or your sinuses start to act up, or you get a headache. Those are all ways in which your body is trying to communicate to you. And oftentimes, it's so fascinating to me when those things happen. And if you can't tell, for those of you who are new to my voice in the world, I'm actually coming off of being sick for almost 2 weeks. And it was probably the longest that I had been out. And so I'm still a little nasally, and talk about having to practice what I preach. And so I really believe that our physical bodies and the sensations that our bodies experience on a daily hourly, minute by the second basis, all of those things that are going on in our bodies are information. And it's like this information highway of what is actually happening. And unfortunately, we've been trained and taught in this reality that if something is wrong, it's a problem. And I'm hoping that through this radio show, and as we get to know each other, and as you get to know me, um, we start to change the paradigm around this. Because the truth is that your body is actually this information highway that is designed to help you evolve. And so when your physical body breaks down, when you have an emotional breakdown, that breakdown is actually designed to break you through to another level of living, break you through to a new level of awareness, to break you through to a new level of receiving. And each of us receives information differently. So some people on the planet are kinesthetic and they are feelers. I'm a feeler. I can feel everything all the time. And as a young child, this was a problem. This was a huge problem because I didn't know then what I know now. And what I know now, and this is just speaking through my own personal experience of basically being an intuitive and living a profession as an intuitive. And I have had the fortune of working with people all over the world from all walks of life over 20 years. And what I've discovered is that, for the most part, every time someone comes to me with a problem, what's underneath the problem is a giant gift, is a giant capacity. And we all have these different capacities. So some people are auditory, some people are kinesthetic, some people are visual, some people are sensory. And every single one of us on the planet does have that capacity. And yet, most of us grew up in households or families or religions or cultures in which that wasn't necessarily like the prize or the best asset. And so, I was raised in an Irish Catholic family and I learned to stuff it. I learned to pretend it didn't exist. And the only way that I gave myself permission to allow my gifts to exist was in sports. So, especially on the soccer field, I knew where the ball was going before the ball would be there. In volleyball, I knew where the ball was going before the ball would be there. But the point is that our bodies are these amazing sensory organs with so much information coming at us all the time. And a lot of times we're trained to pay attention to the pains, to the headaches, to the backaches, to, if our eyes start to go blurry or lose vision, or if we have a toothache or a cavity, right? We pay attention to the body when it presents what we'll call a problem. And, it wasn't until about a decade ago that I started to discover through my own journey that these problems that were presenting themselves were actually these gifts in disguise. And so I'm going to tell you a little story from how this came about, how I came to be an intuitive. Some of the stories I tell aren't so pretty because I haven't had the most glorious life. I had a hard childhood. I had a hard past, and I made some costly mistakes that if you look at my life from a outsider's perspective, you might call them mistakes. And I just simply say that they were um like pieces of information designed to wake me up. And I would not be here where I am today without some of those stories, or I should say, all of those stories. And so for any of you sitting at your home listening or watching live, I want to invite you to possibly consider that there's never been a mistake in your life. There's been choices that you've made that have been designed to help you evolve that may look like a mistake, right? Or a bad choice, but really it was the choice you made in the moment in with the information that you had in the best way you knew how. And I'm excited at the end of or towards the end after break, I'm going to share with you sort of tools that you can begin to implement in your own life to begin to pay attention to all those little signs and that trusting your gut. And so, I do have a background in psychology. I have a background in shamanism. And when I was studying to get my master's in somatic psychology, I didn't finish my degree, but I did go for a year and I learned a lot in that year. And I also learned that talking about my problems only made my problems worse. And so it wasn't until I started to acknowledge the pains, acknowledge the headaches, acknowledge the suffering, and just say hi to those energies in my body that then the energies would shift and my life got lighter, easier, more joyful, more playful, and more fun. And so sort of how this came about is years ago, I was, gosh, in my mid 20s, and I was extremely sick. I was anemic. I was losing weight. I couldn't keep weight on. I could barely eat. It wasn't like you would think that was a good problem to have. I felt like I was dying. And after 9 months of doctor's visits and CAT scans and MRIs to try to discover what was wrong with me, I was desperate. And the medical system wasn't working for me. I wasn't getting any healthier. In fact, I was getting worse. And I felt like my entire life was falling apart. And I had been trying to keep my life together. I was, making multiple six figures. I was a successful real estate agent. I was married and trying to hold together this image of a happy marriage. And there were a whole lot of other things in my life that I was trying to pretend were working when in reality they weren't. And so my physical body started to fall apart and we couldn't figure out what was wrong. So every time I went to the doctor, I got another diagnosis and I walked away with a prescription or some medication or sort of guidelines to follow to get better. And none of those things worked. And in fact, I just kept getting worse and I started to get really depressed. And so one day, sort of in my desperation, I was at a dance class and this woman came up to me and she said, I'm a healer and sounds like you're really struggling. I'm happy to give you a session. And at this point, I was desperate. Now, I hadn't been in the healing world. I was fascinated by the healing world, but I hadn't really had a whole lot of personal experience voluntarily that I knew of. I'll tell stories of when I did have some pretty amazing spiritual moments, but I didn't know it at the time that it was happening. And so here I am in my mid 20s, I'm supposed to be fit. I'm supposed to be healthy, but I was anything but. And I go to this healer. I'm fully clothed. I lay down on her massage table, and she asked me a question that no doctor had asked. No nurse had bothered to ask me. No one that I had seen in the 9 months of all my diagnoses, no one asked. Right. And she said, "Are you happy? What do you think is going on with you? How's your life going?" And tears started to come down my face. And she said, would it be okay with you?" And the source of where my issues were was my belly, my lower back, digestion. I was diagnosed with irritable bowel and a whole bunch of other stuff. And I just was like, leaky gut, all of it that you can think of. And she said, "Would it be okay with you if I put one hand on your sacrum and one hand on your belly? And we ask your body what it knows?" And I was like, um, sure. That's revolutionary. That was a completely like, I had never even considered that, right? Because here's what I learned through that experience and through my last 20 years of working with people is that most people they come to a doctor or a practitioner or a therapist with the symptom, right? The headaches or the migraines or the autoimmune disease or the lethargy or the depression, right? They come with the symptom. And what most Western medicine practitioners do is they treat the symptom, but they rarely look at what caused the symptom in the first place. And so this was the first time that someone was asking me what was going on in my life. And I was like, "Oh my gosh." So she put her hands on, and that hour of being on her table completely changed my life. So within an hour, 50% of my symptoms that we couldn't figure out, we couldn't diagnose, we couldn't treat, had disappeared. Completely disappeared. And I got off the table feeling lighter, feeling like there was hope for me, knowing that I had a chance that I wasn't gonna die, right? Now, mind you, I'm 26, 27 years old. I was a young pup, and thinking I was gonna die, that's pretty intense. The truth was is that I was in a very unhappy life. I was pretending. And so when she put her hands on my gut and asked what my body knows, I broke down. All right. I was in a very unhealthy marriage. I didn't feel safe. And I ended up walking away from that marriage um, kind of shortly after that experience because I realized that my body was breaking down because I was forcing my body to be in a situation that it didn't want to be. And so this topic in this radio show of trusting your gut is about beginning to uncover all the little signs and symptoms that your body displays. They're not a problem, they're actually a window into a solution. We just haven't been trained to listen for the solution. We've been trained to listen for the problem, right? So when the back goes out, oh, let me take an aspirin, right? When you have heartburn, let me take some Pepto Bismol, right? When you have a headache, let me take some Aleve. And so we never bother to ask what's causing that. And this is where trusting your gut comes in, is to begin to recognize that your body is this giant living, breathing organism that is playing with the energies of consciousness and the universe. And it's interacting with you to invite you to evolve. And most of us were put on this planet at this time when we're like, what is happening on our planet? Well, guess what? There are no mistakes. We were designed to be here to evolve. And so when your body's breaking down, it's an invitation for you to see what area or areas of your life are you needing to evolve? Are you needing to upgrade? Are you needing to rise up? And so when I got sick these last 2 weeks, I knew it was not a problem. It was a pain in my butt, but it was not a problem. My body was literally letting go of lifetimes of old patterns, old memories, old stuff. And in that rest. We're talking 6 days in bed where I could do nothing, right? M By day 4, day 5, I was like, "Oh, I could watch a Netflix in bed." And I had my little iPhone, and I was watching in bed, right? But other than that, I laid and I slept and I rested, and the reason why I'm telling you that is because some of you, it's time for a rest. Now, you might not need to get sick in order to rest, but you're being asked to evolve and to look at the patterns in your life that are different, right? To look at the patterns in your life that might need an upgrade. So, if you're an entrepreneur and you're doing business and you hurt yourself, right? Like I have a lot of therapists, so massage therapists, healers, friends that their bodies are starting to break down. And, what I've invited them to look at, those that are open to receiving it, those that aren't, I don't say anything, right? But I've been inviting them to look at like what is wanting to come through you that it's time to allow. Right? And we might go, "Oh, well, it's not time yet," or "I'm not ready," or "I don't have the money," or "I'm not ready to move." But the truth is we'll never be ready for a future that doesn't yet exist. We'll never be ready for the change. We can only be willing. And speaking to all you mothers out there who have delivered babies, it doesn't matter how many Lamaze classes you take, how many breathing techniques you study, how many books you read on the topic of giving birth, until you are smack dab in the middle of labor, you're not ready. And you're not even ready when you're going through it. There is this level of surrender that has to happen, and you can only be willing. You can only be willing for what hasn't yet occurred, for what hasn't yet happened, for the future that is unknown. You can't be ready for it, right? So many people come and they're like, I'm ready to make more money. I'm ready for the business of my dreams. I'm ready to start a committed relationship. I'm like, you can't really be ready for it. No amount of reading and preparation, but you can be willing. And yes, we can prepare. And I always tell people, if you really want to prepare for a business, prepare for a relationship, particularly a relationship, is do you like your own company? And if you don't, then spend time in your own company and prepare. Find out what you like, find out what you don't, find out if you can hang out by yourself in the dark for 6 days and still like who you are at the end of it, right? And so this is all an invitation to see the possibilities that you may not have yet considered, the doors that you haven't yet opened in your life, right? The information that's wanting to come through you. And you might say, I'm not ready. You're correct. And guess what? You'll never be ready. Right? I mean, I would love to meet I know one person on the planet that was ready for her birth when she was going into labor with her child. She was a doula, right? She had been studying it, she had been preparing, she had been delivering babies, so she kinda knew what she was getting into, and, she gave birth by herself, in another country. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, that is amazing." And so I was like, "Oh, I'll be fine when I go into labor." Nope. So you can never be ready. You can only be willing. And so I want to invite all of you to be willing to start to listen to your bodies, to listen to your guts. And you know how I know y'all can do it is because you made a choice at some point in your life, right? And maybe you ignored your gut and you went through with a choice or a decision or an event anyway. And after that event was over, right, you went, oh my God, I knew I shouldn't have done that. Or, oh, I knew I should have done that. I know a lot of people who, have lost a lot of money because they knew they should have either pulled their money out of their investments, right? Out of stocks, or they knew they should have put their money in and then, oh, I missed it. I knew it. And so, but here's the sad piece and the sad dose of reality is that most people, they live their life from the choices that if they would have made them, would have created success. And they go, oh, I wish I would have done that. What they're failing to recognize is that just because they had that information once, right, doesn't mean it's not going to come again. It will come again and again and again and again and again, but not if you're living from, oh, I wish I would have made that choice. I wish I would have known. And so every little choice, little and big, that we make is designed to facilitate our awareness. It's designed to wake us up. So sometimes we make choices and the result is a headache or a backache or a pain. I broke my wrist. And you know what? I knew I should not have gotten on the mountain that day. I knew it, but I ignored it. And I talked myself into doing it. And, unfortunately or fortunately, so many of us, we talk ourselves into or out of situations instead of trusting the power of our intuition, instead of trusting the power of our guts. And so, we're going to take a break in a little bit, but we'll come back. And when we come back from break, I'm going to talk to you about all the ways you can start to listen to your intuition. But the more you listen to your gut, the more you listen to those little moments of ahas, and the more you recognize the ways in which your intuition comes to you, you will start to have more of those moments and more of those moments and more of those moments. So you can start to ask. You can ask for those moments to show up in your life. And so if you want to make more money, you can start to ask for the moments of your intuition to show you all the places where you could make more money. And when you ask, you might overhear a conversation at the bank. You might overhear somebody talking at a restaurant, right, about an investment, or you might meet somebody who's really financially aware. That's when you go, aha, my awareness is working, and you ask for more of it. Okay, so we're going to take a quick commercial break. And when we get back from the break, we'll talk all about the ways in which you can begin to trust your gut and all the ways in which your gut is trying to communicate to you.
Om Times TV.
Do you trust you? Do you trust your body? What if the key to unlocking the weight, pain, suffering, fear, anxiety, addictions, traumas, and sorrows was already inside of you? Learn to love the skin you are in so you can create the body, business, and life you love. Everyone always says you can't explain what Katherine does, you just have to experience it. From Hollywood actors to New York Times best-selling authors to some of the world's wealthiest and most successful, no two experiences are the same. For private sessions, online courses, live events, and the latest book Jack Canfield calls Game Changer and should be required reading for everyone, go to KatherineMcIntosh.com. KatherineMcIntosh.com.
Imagine becoming a super influencer. Reinvent yourself, invest in your brand, and then manifest your success with a robust spheric approach. Om Times Media and Broadcasting offers a unique and multifaceted way to become the spiritual and conscious influencer you deserve to be by putting your message across our powerful platform with its proven record of integrity and excellence. Through our produced shows, Om Times offers the opportunity to become a social media TV personality, a radio show host, an Om Times magazine columnist, and a syndicated podcaster, all in one shot. By live streaming your show on Om Times TV and broadcasting it across the extensive Om Times radio and TV networks, you become more than a host. You become an ambassador and a force for positive change. Om Times. Open yourself to the possibilities.
I want to eat apples and bananas. I need to eat apples and bananas. Why can't I eat apples and bananas?
Support the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks to help provide meals to those in need. Join us at feedingamerica.org.
All right, my friends, welcome back from the break. Thank you for being here. And so I'm so excited to be here as the first show. And we will be doing weekly shows every Monday at this time and cannot wait for you to join. I will be taking live callers. So if there is a question that you have, if there's been something that's been weighing on you and you haven't been able to resolve or solve it, we'll be taking people with their questions, and I will be downloading the information and you can take it or leave it. I tell all my clients, like, please don't take what I say verbatim. Don't take it as truth. I'm simply downloading information, and your body is your best resource to sort of allow you to discover if what I'm saying has an element of truth in it for you, and for you to begin to be your own best truth advocate, your own investigator of your life and best practices for you to thrive. Because the point of this show isn't just to talk about trusting your gut, is to give you resources and information and things that we'll talk about in the upcoming shows that invite you to thrive in your life, invite you to thrive in your business and your parenting and your relationships and your sex life and every other topic. There's no topic that I won't talk about. There's nothing that I won't go sort of investigate in. And it takes all of us, right? It takes a village, and we're here on this planet at this time in unprecedented times. We've never been here before. So we don't know what's coming, but what we do know is that we have this incredible vessel called a physical body that allows us to empower ourselves. And I want to invite you to begin to empower you, that possibly you know more about your physical body than anybody else. Right. And sometimes we all have blind spots. I have blind spots when I get sick, when something's going wrong. I have friends and energy healers and people that I go to for support. And we shouldn't ever have to go through this life feeling like we're alone, although a lot of us do. And especially after the last few years, many people are starting to sort of isolate. And the beauty of technology is that we can reach anyone and everyone, and you don't have to do this alone. So if you're at home by yourself in your own little world, I see you. May this be an invitation for you to know that you don't have to do it by yourself. So for those of you intrigued, you are welcome to call in, join us live on the show, only when it's live, right? And we will do our best to accommodate, and we'll see how it goes. So going back to today's topic and trusting your gut and some of the ways in which your body is talking to you, your gut is talking to you. And so I want to present some information and please, like I tell all my clients, please filter it through your own knowing. What's true for you will make you feel light. What isn't true for you will feel heavy. And, sometimes we're hit with information that sort of opposes our original points of views and there might be some resistance. And so you may say, "Oh, that's heavy. That doesn't apply to me." Maybe so, but you also might be resisting the information because it's exactly what you need to transform, to heal, to change, to evolve, and to grow. And so I just invite you to listen with an open perspective, with an open mind, and with an open heart, and sort of filter through your physical body, your energetic body, and your emotional body, the things that feel like they sort of expand your energy when I'm talking about it, and those things that contract your energy. And all it is information. So when you expand, it's information that it's probably something that would contribute to your evolution. If it contracts you, it's probably information that isn't for you for now, right? And then you can always ask, like, am I resisting this information because it would change something I'm afraid to change? And, there is no right, there is no wrong. This is your journey, your way. And so give yourself permission to do your journey your way. And sometimes we do need a second or third or fourth opinion, but more often than not, when we are seeking the opinion of others, we need to really filter it through our own awareness system. And so, this part of the show, we're going to share with you some of the ways in which you can start to hone in on your own self awareness. How does it show up for you? How does it feel in your body? How are you sort of taking in information? And so I'll give you one that shows up for me all the time that is sort of like I know is I will think about someone and within less than 24 hours, sometimes it's like less than 10 minutes, they're calling, they're texting, they're messaging me on social media, they're emailing me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I knew I could feel them. And this happens to me all the time. It's one of the ways in which sort of I receive information is I know when somebody's thinking about me or they're about to reach out. And so a lot of you might have that capacity. And so how do you have it show up more is you begin to acknowledge that that's a capacity, right? Some of you, it might be you think about something that you want to have occur in your life, like winning a raffle or, getting a sweatshirt or going to an event and either you win the event or you get the thing that you're thinking about. Right. It happens to me in coffee shops. I'll go to a coffee shop and I'm like, oh, I really want that. And someone will buy me a coffee. I didn't ask for it, and it's exactly what I was thinking I want, and I'm like, I'm a change my mind all the time type of girl, so it's really random, and I just go, "Wow, universe, thank you," and what I know is that my body is really loud in what it wants. And most of you, your physical bodies are really loud in what they want, and you're not listening. So it starts to create pain. So, how do we start to cultivate the ways in which your sort of intuition, your trusting your gut shows up? Um, Goosebumps is a great way. So when you get goosebumps, pay attention. Who's around you? What's the topic that's being talked about? Where in the world are you? Are you watching a show, right? Did somebody just call you? That's information. And so this is about beginning to be your own private investigator in sort of decoding and deciphering how this information is coming to you. And so for some of you, it might be a pit in your stomach, right? Like in your gut, and you're like, oh, and it doesn't hit so well. Some of you, it might be a light sensation in your heart, or your shoulders go back, or your heart opens, or your throat begins to sort of have these sensations. And so there's no right or wrong way, but this is all places and pieces of information. And I came to this new piece of information last week as I was working with a client. I went, oh my gosh. So, neck, right? And especially female necks. When I have worked on necks, this information came through loud and clear last week, which was I was working on this woman's neck, and I'm like, how long has this been going on? And all this stuff. And all of a sudden I went, oh my gosh, necks. And when necks go out, it's usually because underneath the root of the cause of the neck, now they might have had an injury, they might have had a ski accident. They, in my case, I was a hairdresser, and my neck would go out occasionally when I was cutting hair. And so I always like, oh, it's because it's physical, right? Well, I know that if it's manifesting as physical, there's an energetic root underneath. And so I believe one of the causes of neck problems and the energetic root of neck problems is a lack of self-esteem, is a lack of confidence in yourself. So whether that's in using your voice, whether that's in your physical appearance, whether that's in trusting yourself in business negotiations, I believe that neck, and it's particularly in people who have had very traumatic childhoods. So maybe they come from an alcoholic family, or maybe they were sexually abused as little kids. Maybe they don't trust the people that raised them, and that can manifest as neck problems. And so it's always really great once you uh, can sort of identify a root, is the way that you do it. So let's say you've been having neck problems, and this is the trusting your gut. You say hi to the energy that's in your neck, right? So even when I'm talking, I can feel it in the back of my neck, and it's like, okay, I'm going to say hi to that energy. And I'm pretty like, I've been practicing this for over 20 years, and so the messages can come through really quickly. It's like anything we do in life. If you want to get great at it, if you're not yet great at it, you have to practice. And even those great at things like Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, they had to practice, right? Ballerinas have to practice. Piano players practice, energy workers practice. The more you practice, the better you get it. So let's say you're having issues in your neck. And for me, I can feel this spot in my back, in my like upper neck, right? Shoulder, where my shoulder and neck meet. And I'm just going to say hi to the energy in my neck, right? And the message is, right? Because I asked, right? So you say hi to the energy. You can ask, what does it have to tell you? Right. And then this is where you begin to be the translator. Sometimes you won't have words for the translation. That's okay. You don't need physical words. You can just say hi. Like, okay, I get there. Oh, there's an energy sensation. Okay, I can perceive that energy sensation. I don't have words for it. You don't need words for it. So for me, when I said hi to this place in my neck, it was like, you don't have to hold everything together. Okay, great. Thanks for the information. That's how easy it can be to trust your gut. So let's say you're having digestive issues, right? You want to say hi to your belly, right? Let's say you're judging your belly. You don't like how it looks. Maybe you have stretch marks. Maybe you have a C-section and scars from delivering your children, right? Maybe you've had breast cancer and you have scars from the surgery. We tend to avoid looking at the places, especially in the mirror, we tend to avoid looking in the mirror at the places of our bodies where we judge the most or where we've had trauma. And so if you start to say hi to those places in your body, so let's say it's your breasts, you start to say hi to your breasts, hi to the energy, right? Hi. Oh, and then you can just relax. So let's say it's in your gut and you're dealing with digestive issues and people are trying to diagnose you with leaky gut or irritable bowel or I don't know, slow metabolism, or you have something wrong in your intestines, right? And they might diagnose you or label it. Here's my sort of caveat or warning: is any diagnosis is just a guess, right? Because what they're guessing is based on the symptoms, but they rarely know the root cause. But guess what? You do. You might not know it cognitively, you might not know it, but your body knows intuitively the root cause. And so it could be shame from a secret you've been holding all these years. It could be an infidelity. It could be, you lost a child, or maybe you had to have a miscarriage and you weren't prepared for it, or you had to, abort a child. Like, there's so many things that our bodies carry the memory of, and when we're least expecting it, that memory will arise, not necessarily in the form of a memory, but in the form of a trigger. You might get anxiety. You might start to have a panic attack, right? Anxiety is suppressed awareness. Anxiety is your body's way of telling you you're aware of something about this topic, but you're not letting yourself be aware of the information. So it's showing up as a constriction, as a contraction, as a panic, right? Hmm. And so for those of you dealing with belly stuff, right? It could be like, oh, I don't like my arms, they're chubby. Oh, I don't like my legs, they're too thick. Oh, I don't like the backs of my legs or my butt, or I don't like my, stretch marks. Whatever it is, those are the places in which you are using judgment to ignore something that actually could be a giant gift in your world. And so how do you do it? You begin to go, okay, I can feel it in my gut. Oh, I'm judging my gut. Okay, I'm going to say hi to the energy in my belly. And then, so for me, as soon as I say hi to the energy, there's a message that almost always comes immediately after. And the message I heard was, trust yourself. Right? Our guts, our bellies are our potency centers, are our sense and source of I am. So, do you trust who you are in the world, or have you been unsure of yourself? Right? Are you going through a hard time in your marriage and both you and your spouse are feeling depressed and depleted and doing the best you can? That can wreak havoc in your ability to listen to your gut, to trust your awareness, right? Have you had stuff with your vocal cords, or your throat has been struggling, right? And it might be, okay, saying hi to that energy, and you guys can hear it in my voice. Well, I'm this isn't what I normally sound like. I'm close, but I'm a little nasally today. And so you can start to go, okay, my throat, what's in my throat? And so for some of you are like, okay, great, Catherine, that's awesome information, but that I need to start with the basics. And so for me, the basic beginning of this is closing your eyes, emptying your mind, right? and just taking a moment to take a few breaths, right? And the way that I do that, if there's a lot of mental noise in my world, if I'm stressed, if anything else is out there, is I will energetically just kind of push everything out and make a little bit of space. So it's like as if I'm living in my own little bubble, right? And I push that stuff out so I have a little bit of space. And then I close my eyes and I quiet my mind. For any of you who study meditation, you can kind of look into meditation, but really it's just the practice of being present enough with your breath so that all you can sort of focus on is that inhale in and that exhale out. And I personally like to inhale in through my nose, exhale out through my nose when I'm practicing becoming aware. And you just do a few breaths. And then you can put your hand, like if you want to see what's going on in your heart, you can put a hand on your heart. You can put both hands there. You can put a hand on your belly, or you can put both hands there. And you can just say hi energetically to your belly, right? You can say hi energetically to your toes. And when you're doing this for the first couple of times, practice, remember, this isn't about getting it right. This is about practicing, is you practice, right? And instead of listening for the information that comes after, all you're doing is saying hi to all the different places in your body. So maybe you're going to say hi to your head. Maybe you have a headache. Maybe you feel like you've had brain fog for a long time. Maybe you're going through menopause or depression or anxiety. And you're just going to say hi to those areas and see what. So you just say hi without a point of view, without expecting anything in return, and you just say hi. And it's a great practice, a couple minutes in the morning, a couple minutes at night. When I do it, I'm laying in my bed before I go to sleep at night. I'll put one hand on my heart, one hand on my belly. I'm closing my eyes and I'm just taking a few breaths in through my nose, out through my nose, and I'm just being present with my body. When I go to bed at night, I'm thanking it. I'm thanking it for everything it did that day, and I'm asking it to create in its sleep, right? To go dream, to go create, to go manifest. And then in the morning when I wake up, first thing I do, right? My eyes are closed already. I kind of, if I'm sleeping on my side, I'll roll over on my back. I put one hand on my heart, one hand on my belly, a few deep breaths in and out, and I just say hi to my body. And you can take turns saying hi to your neck, saying hi to your head, saying hi to your shoulders, saying hi to your wrists. And that's how you begin the practice of listening, right? So it's just like a marriage or a long term relationship. And let's say you're in this long term relationship and you've never before practiced listening to each other. And all of a sudden, you decide you want to start listening to each other. It's going to take some work. It's going to take letting go of the past. It's going to take letting go of all your past reference points. It's also going to take letting go of any judgment. I can't do it, right? I don't know how. Here's the deal. Each of you hears your body in a way that no one else can or will. So some of you it's kinesthetic, some of you it's auditory, some of you it's sensations, it might be verbal, right? And no one can tell you the right or the wrong way to do this. This is about practice and beginning to practice your own ways of how do you get in touch with your intuition, right? How do you begin to sort of listen and let go, right? And it is a practice and you will get there. I promise you will. and you're not wrong. So if you're listening to this and you have been dealing with a chronic health issue or a chronic financial issue or a chronic relationship issue or a chronic emotional issue, it's not a problem. Your body is inviting you to begin to cultivate a new level of awareness, a new level of awakening, a new level of evolving. Whenever a problem arises, it's because it's time to evolve. It's time to shift your perspective. It's time to awaken to your genius. And nobody knows better about you than you. We just haven't been taught how. And so, hopefully, as we dive into these episodes week after week, I hope you join me. I hope that this information has been helpful. And I hope that you get that you're not as screwed up as you thought. You just haven't been trained, right? And there is information and there is hope and there is a solution. And here's the best piece of advice I heard just recently is we think that our bodies are the problems. Your body is not the problem. And it doesn't matter how many years you've struggled, whether it's with your weight or your self esteem or your anxiety or your panic attacks, it doesn't matter. What matters is that you are the solution. Your awareness is the solution, and you have absolutely everything you need to be able to change it. You just have to begin to trust you. And so it doesn't come automatically. It's not like, I was gifted with trusting myself. I would say absolutely the opposite. I'll tell you horror stories that might make you laugh for days. But the point is that it's about cultivating a practice in which you begin to trust you every step of the way. And so, my friends, just please know that you are not wrong. Your body is not wrong. And, this isn't about, um, you know, saying don't use Western medicine. In fact, I was at the doctor last week and I called the doctor for my son this morning because my son now has what I had, right? And so this is about giving you permission to know that there are tools and resources. But at the end of the day, you are the one to determine. So, like a CEO running its business, the CEO doesn't hand the most crucial business decisions over to the assistant or the secretary. It gathers the information it needs and then it makes the decision. And you are the CEO of your body. You are the CEO of your own awareness. So gather all the information you need from all the sources you need. But at the end of the day, you are the one to determine and decide and sort of decipher what your truth is. And when you start to follow your truth, your life will feel as if it is functioning on magic. Your life will wake up, the people you will meet, the energies that you will encounter along the way, it will all be worth it, all because your body is trying to get your attention. So, listen, my friends, thank you so much for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you next time on the show.
Katherine is not a medical practitioner nor a licensed therapist. She has strong opinions and will express them, and truly believes that you are your best advocate for any and every area of your life. If you need medical advice, please consult your physician.